Have you ever noticed that you often get disappointed by people? Do you understand why that is? Oftentimes, we have higher expectations for people than people have for themselves. Understanding that change is temporary and evolution is gradual and permanent will definitely save you some time, effort, and attention. People will change and then often go back to their old habits. But people who evolve work to become better versions of themselves on an everyday basis, meaning they're watching what they're doing, what they're saying, where their attention is going. And if you see that someone has changed habits, but it doesn't stick, there's a reason for that, right? Maybe you notice it in yourself. If that is something that you resonate with, hear me out. When we imply change, we say this is temporary. This is me swapping one thing for another. But when we evolve, right? We decide that we are going to be better versions of ourselves and we work on ourselves every single day. Therefore, if you do it long enough, it becomes a habit, right? I think they say that it takes about 30 days to build a new habit. Replace an old habit. This is why I say this. It took me years to quit smoking, but I had been smoking since I was 16 years old. I didn't I didn't quit smoking until I was 36. Now, did I try to change in that time? Yes, I tried many times to quit smoking. I actually quit smoking during both of my pregnancies. And yet and still, when I was done being pregnant and I gave birth, I still went back to smoking. It was because I made a temporary change, right? It wasn't an evolution, it wasn't an evolve, right? It was a change. So think about it like this. Think about Pokemon, right? I'm old school. We have the Pokemon, right? And when they evolved into the next version of themselves, did they ever go back? No. But before they could evolve, they had to adapt certain habits. They had to endure, right? Longer. They had to implement the the thing that was going to make them evolve, right? And so when we say, okay, I'm going to change this habit, we're saying to our brain, okay, this thing that I'm doing is going to be swapped out for this thing. It's not telling our brain that we're going to stop. And so that's where decisions and the word evolve come in. When you make the decision to be a better person every day, you automatically put in place what you will need to eventually evolve. And yes, it does take time. Just like it takes time to build these habits, it takes time to break them. It's not going to happen overnight. If you are used to acting in a certain way or behaving in a certain way or perceiving things in a certain way, you cannot expect yourself to just wake up one day and be like, oh, nope, I'm not going to think like that anymore. Or, oh, no, I'm not going to do this thing every morning. It's something that is habitual. It's something that you learn to do over time. And so therefore it's going to take time to unlearn what you've learned. I say all that to say this. when you have people who are in your life or a part of your life or that you even come in contact with, and you see that they have certain habits, understand that as much as you may want different for them, they're not going to evolve until they want different for themselves. For example, if you're having a conversation with your best friend, and your best friend says to you, yeah, um, I've been dating this guy, and these are the things that I really like, but then these are the things that I think are really um, stopping this person from, you know, going to the next level. And then you have another conversation, and it's like, yeah, this person is getting deeper into those things that are blocking them versus trying to get better. That is a habit that they are not trying to evolve, right? It's that example of you tell your spouse, hey, I don't like this, or you tell someone, hey, I don't like this, and they stop it for a little while. Normally it lasts about 30 days. It could last longer. Some people have a longer longevity, but they eventually go back to that same habit. It's because they didn't change it for themselves. They didn't say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm making the decision to evolve and be a better person every day. They said, no, I'm going to change this because this person doesn't like this. But because they didn't do it for themselves, it didn't stick. So when you, back to that conversation with your best friend, or your friend or your family member, whoever, when you see that these people have these habits, you have to decide for yourself. I see that this person has this habit. Can I deal with that? We all have to decide what we are willing to deal with. If someone who has bad habits is in your close circle, eventually, because birds of a feather flock together, eventually you're going to start picking up bad habits. It's not like you're doing it on purpose, but you are the sum of those that you hang out with, right? You are the sum of those in your circle. And so 9 times out of 10, if they have certain tendencies, it's going to rub off on you. So that's like, that's like contact. Like it's in the air. It's around you, right? And so you have to decide, can I deal with this habit without it affecting me in the long term? And in some situations you can. And then in other situations, no, it's going to eventually affect you because either something that they say or do or don't do is going to affect you in some type of way, shape, or form, whether it's now or later. So when it comes to evolving, you have to decide, what am I willing to tolerate? At the end of the day, we want the best for those who are in our circle. And at least I hope you do, because I want the best for the people in my circle, right? But what I think is best for them, or what I would hope they would want, may not be what they want. And that is okay. That just means that we're not on the same page, and I just have to make better choices. I just have to choose to do something else, to do something different, to be around different people. When you understand and you fully understand and overstand that simple thing right there, you stop getting so disappointed because you understand who people are and what they are willing to do, not what they're capable of, but what they're actually willing to do, what they're willing to give up, what the decisions that they're willing to make and keep to. Sometimes people only do things because we want them to. They don't do them because they want to. And that's why it doesn't stick. That's why that person keeps going back to that bad habit. That's why, people continue to do with it because they want to. And nothing that you say or do is going to change that long term. It might change in the moment. It might change for a couple months, 6 months tops, but they're gonna revert right back to the same behavior because it wasn't a decision that they made for themselves. The way that I have handled that in the past was probably the way that everybody else does. I'm disappointed, you let me down and all of this stuff, but in all actuality, they didn't. You just had your expectations too high. Stop expecting from people what they to stop expecting people to give you what they can't even give themselves. And that's just it is what it is on that. If they're not willing to do it for themselves, they're not going to be willing to do it for you long term. I had an uncle who was an alcoholic, right? He smoked, he drank. He would wake up and the first thing he would go for is a drink. He would go to sleep drunk. When he got the diagnosis that he got, that and they said, "Hey, the drinking is not helping you. You need to stop drinking." He didn't stop drinking. However long later, he got the diagnosis like, "Okay, this has gotten worse. There's nothing we can do about it." They gave him a certain amount of time, and granted, he lasted longer than that. But he did eventually succumb to the illness that came from the drinking. At the time, I was a kid, but as I got older, I realized that, or actually, I overheard that that had been an issue in his marriage. That his wife had asked him to, slow down, cut back, quit, like whatever it is that's going to help keep you here with me longer, right? Unfortunately, the opposite happened. He indulged more. And guess what? She ended up doing it too. She ended up becoming an alcoholic. She ended up becoming a chain smoker. Because you're in close proximity, like the people that you hang around are going to rub off on you, regardless of whether you want them to or whether you try to do things like it's because that is your circle, because that is your immediate circumstance environment. You are going to adapt, and adapting can be adapting and getting better or adapting and getting worse. So you have to choose, is this thing that this person or this act that this person is doing or showing me something that I want to be around? How is it going to affect me long term? So if you know a person is a liar, you can't believe nothing that they say. If someone is manipulative, you always second guess whether or not what you're doing is for the right reason. Like, is it like, are you asking me for money because you need it for this thing, or are you asking me for money because you need it to do something else, right? But how I stop that frame of mind is, once I decide to give you the money, what you do with it is on you. For example, I know someone who, chain smoker, alcoholic, uh, called me and said, "Hey, I don't have any food in the house. I want to take kids to go get something to eat. I do anything for the babies, right? I was like, all right, I got you. Sent the money. Sent enough. Let me rephrase. I sent enough for them to get something quality to eat. Go to the grocery store and you could get, you know, enough that it'll last you for a couple of days if you know how to ration it out, right? But some people don't, right? Instead of doing what would have made it last longer, this person decided to go to McDonald's, get meals off of the dollar menu or get things off of the dollar menu for her kids, and then turned around and took the rest of the money and got her alcohol and cigarettes and seafood. I was like, I'm sorry, you did what? And I couldn't even be mad. That's the thing. I couldn't even be mad because I'm like, okay, I know that these are your habits. I know that these are the decisions that you've made before. While it may not have been in this exact situation involving your children, I don't live with you, so I don't know what you're doing. But the moment that I decided to send you anything, what you did with it was on you. So I I didn't have a choice but to accept that, right? But my lesson from that was never do that again. If the kids need food, I will DoorDash you something. Like real talk. I'll get a Walmart to drop you off an order of some food. I don't I learned my lesson from that, right? And needless to say, of course, that when I decided to evolve and become better for myself, there were certain people that I had to cut off, and that was one of them because of the toxic behaviors that I was seeing and that I did not want to be a part of, and I did not want rubbing off on me either. There is a certain type of lifestyle that I want to live, and that none of the things that they were doing was included in that. And yes, did I try to convince this person to change? Did I, or to make better decisions for themselves and their family? Yes, I did. Did it work? No, I did not. Why? Because I wanted better for somebody than what somebody wanted for themselves. And I couldn't do nothing but respect that. Accept people for who they are. And what I mean by that is if somebody shows you who they are, which they all do, their mannerisms, their habits, their comments, the things that they do on a daily basis, if they're showing you who they are, accept it and just decide what you're going to do from there. You have no right to tell somebody what they should and shouldn't do. You have every right to decide what you are and are not going to deal with. So once again, it comes back to what decisions are you going to make to improve your lifestyle? And that includes your friends. That includes who you have in your circle. Like, I have family I don't even talk to. I love you, but I'm gonna love you from a distance because I do not want to be involved with what you got going on. It just is what it is. Am I saying that they are wrong for what they're doing? No. If that's what you want to do, have at it. But I can't do that anymore. When I decided to change my life, when I decided to uh, make those decisions to become a better person and evolve into the person that I am today, I took that so serious. And when you don't take those decisions serious is when you get disappointed in yourself and other people in your environment and things that you have no control over. The only thing you can control is how it affects you, how you let it affect you. So I used to say all the time, I don't trust people. I don't trust people. I don't trust. Yeah, I do. This version of me does. I trust you to show me exactly who you are. That's like That's like buying a workshop. And this workshop is a DIY. Do it yourself. And you buy the workshop and you get halfway through it and you say, this isn't working. Did you complete the workshop? Did you, excuse me, confirmation. Did you do the things in the workshop? Did you follow the instructions? If you didn't, then you can't say it didn't work. What you can say is I didn't do what I needed to do to make it work. When we put blame on other people instead of accepting responsibility for what is in our control, that's when you get disappointed. You cannot continue to say, oh, well, this didn't work out for me and that didn't work out for me. Well, how hard did you really work at it? And I am still working on this, right? But I take try and can't out of my personal vocabulary. I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm going to do it or I'm not. I'm not going to tell myself, oh, I can't do this. Yeah, I can. I may not do it well the first few times, but I'm going to do it. And we're just going to go from there because nobody actually does anything for the first time and succeeds. And if you do, kudos to you, but how long do you stick with it? And that's just real talk. How long do you stick with it? Matter of fact, give me 1 second. Let me look up something. All right. So, Albert Einstein. He wasn't able to speak until he was almost 4 years old, and his teacher said that he would never amount to much. Michael Jordan. After being cut from his high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. Biggest basketball player? Like, what? Walt Disney. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. Y'all go to Disney World, what? He tried something and it didn't work out for him. Steve Jobs. Okay. At 30 years old, he was left devastated and depressed after being unceremoniously removed from the company he started. What you saying? What is the excuse? You can't do what? Yes, you can. So stop acting like you just unable. Now, if you don't have the capacity, then say that. But don't say I can't do this or I tried this and it didn't work. How hard did you really try? Oprah Winfrey was demoted from her job as a news anchor because it wasn't fit for television. She has her own show. Ended up having her own show. I'm not. So when I say take can't out of your vocabulary, I truly mean that. All right, Abraham Lincoln. Former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln first went into politics at the age of 23 when he campaigned for a seat on the Illinois General Assembly and failed. He then opened a general store, which failed only after a few months. I mean, Henry Ford, the Ford Motor Company was Henry Ford's third business. The first two didn't work out. Marilyn Monroe turned into a icon. She spent much of her younger years in foster homes. One of her first jobs during the Second World War was inspecting parachutes. She became a model. Like, there are so many examples of people who tried something and said, okay, well, I didn't give it my all, or they did something and they gave it their all and it still didn't work. If you are afraid of failure, you're never going to get anywhere. You have to fail in order to succeed, because failure is the lessons that you need to get you where you're going and where you need to be. So I challenge you to take try out of your vocabulary. Take can't out of your vocabulary. Stop standing in the doorway, one foot in and one foot out. And challenge yourself to go all in. And when you fail, you can cry about it. That is fine. You can be sad about it. That is fine. But do not stay there. Get up and try again. Get up and do it again. Get up and do something else again. The only failure that is permanent is if you do not do it again, if you don't go back at it again, if you don't do something else. There's no way that anyone can tell me that it is not possible. Especially given who we are, what we are. You've got this. So if you needed some motivation today, I hope I gave it to you. Because at the end of the day, we need to take responsibility for the people, the places, and the things that are in direct contact with us, because that is something that we can control. Granted, there are some situations where you cannot get out of your environment. Okay. Work on changing, work on evolving yourself. Work on yourself so that you can get out of that situation. Don't just say, I'm just stuck in this situation. You're not. What can you do to improve yourself? What can you do to say, okay, I need to get out of this situation? What can I do? How can I move? What decisions can I make? I left home at 16 because I was being abused. There is no way that you're going to tell me you can't do it. There's just no way. If you are someone who feels like you don't have clarity and you don't know how to get out of a situation, or you don't know how to do something, but you still have the conviction and the courage to get it done, go to my website, which will be linked down below. Go ahead and book you a call for the Clarity Breakthrough Session. We will map you out some actionable steps so that you know where to get started. But please know, I can help you map out whatever. What I cannot do is make you do the work. You have to do the work. You have to implement the change. You have to be the one to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and then do it. I don't mind having a conversation with you, but don't waste your time, because I'm going to map it out. I'm going to ask you the hard questions. Are you going to implement the next steps is the real question. You are the sum of those you hang out with. Look at the people around you and decide whether or not you want to continue going down that path. Whether or not you want to continue to be in that environment, do those things, stay at that job, stay with that person. What are they doing with their lives? And if it's not where you want to be, then I suggest that you implement some type of decision so that you can figure out what you want to do with your life and do that. We all need help. Sometimes we all need a good talking to. I'm here for you. But you have to be there for yourself first. So, stop allowing yourself to be disappointed in other people. Make those decisions. Cut what you need to cut. Implement those things that you need to implement and evolve into the better version of you. Make those everyday decisions, make those everyday actions to become a better person. Take the word change and try out of your can't and try out of your vocabulary, and understand that change is only temporary. You have to decide to evolve in order for it to be something that ends up permanent. So I hope that this gave you something to think about today. And once again, leave, if this resonated with you, leave what it made you feel or what it made you think about below in the comments. I will definitely respond. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.